is part of the question on service delivery, Chair. If we could be given maybe, I see now on education, or maybe for each department, if we can, those can be lifted up, because these are very important questions for us to.
Yes, sir.
For departments, because for us to have a blank statement to say service delivery is low in the province, it's a very, very dangerous statement, Chair, which needs to be looked at. Thanks.
Yes, Honourable Kelly, if you look at the department by department, they have actually presented that. And I think when we get the detailed audit presentation per department, we'd get it again. And I think it would be worthwhile interrogating to check what are the issues, as Mirusha has pointed out, what are the issues around the achievement of targets. So thanks for that. I don't know if there's any response from the AG. Honourable de Klerk, yours was obviously the legacy hand. Okay. Anything from the AG? Are we covered?
Chair, we covered, because each presentation, starting with education, will go into the specific details of the whether it's financial statements, compliance, the annual performance report, the achievement of targets, and I think it gives the members that opportunity to then have the specific discussions. That is why I stayed away from the detail, because they will then have an opportunity from each team to listen to that detail as well as interrogate it further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think also we do appreciate the difference in how the AG's report is coming through, because it's now focusing on specific areas, which I think is helpful to us as SCOPA. So thank you for that. Colleagues, if there are no other questions, because obviously you will raise them when we meet departments, on the overall audit outcomes for the province, can we then move to the presentation on the Department of Education? Is that all right, colleagues?
We're fine, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, do you want a 5-minute break and then we go into the education presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, Signe.
That's fine, Chair. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, 5 minutes, colleagues, then we'll do education.
I think I will need a strong drink. Thank you, Chair.
Just no drinking on duty, Honourable de Klerk. Use your 5 minutes.
Now I'm talking about espresso coffee. Chair, I don't know what you're thinking about.
Who's doing the presentation on the education audit?
Morning, Honorable Chair. I will be taking through the presentation on education. My name is Netlanta Sibia, the Senior Manager on the Audit of Education.
Thanks, Sneh. Okay, colleagues, are we ready to commence? We can get that.
We are ready. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Sibia, can we also get the presentation flighted? It has been emailed to you, colleagues, as well, but let's get it on the screen and we can commence.
Okay, thank you. I'm just checking online. Dabazo, if you can flight the presentation for me. Or Lucky, Joe. Oh, that was already.
We've got it. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. You can commence.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Once again, a very good morning to the honorable members. This is the audit outcome for the Department of Education. I think on the second slide, the previous team has already touched on the mission and vision, so I will pass that. Just highlighting on the next slide, slide number 3, in terms of strategic aspiration, I think they've also touched based on that. But just to emphasize once again, in terms of strategic aspiration of the AG, we want to have a stronger, more and a direct impact in terms of improving the live reality of the ordinary South African. Obviously, we also look at the theory of change in terms of sustainability, and we are giving you insights as well as influence on our audit. The next slides touch on the accountability ecosystem, which is looking at the whole accountability ecosystem. I think the previous team has also touched on it. We can pass that one. And then just goes to Ndogozo's to slide number 7, which details the audit outcomes of the department. Okay, on the audit outcomes of the department, honorable members, I'll start with where we express the financial audit opinion. We express the audit opinion on the financial statements of any entity. And when we look at the previous 3 years, 2021 up to 2023, the department has received financially unqualified with findings on the audit of financial statement. They did have misstatements, but they were able to make adjustments to the financial statement and thus receiving financially unqualified with findings. The areas where we had findings were in the audit of annual performance reports, and we looked at 3 programs. We looked at program 2, which is the public ordinary schools. On that audit, the department was qualified on all 3 years, 2021 up to 2022-23 financial year. So it was all qualified on the main program, which is program 2, public ordinary schools. We also looked at program 5, which is the early childhood development. This program was only audited in the current financial year, 22-23. The department received an unqualified opinion in the management reports, because remember, on this audit, we only reflect the opinion in the management report, so it was unqualified. The other program that we looked at was the infrastructure program, which is program 6. Unfortunately, on program 6, there were so many issues around the information that was presented. So that opinion that we expressed in the management report of the department was an adverse opinion, which means we were not agreeing with the information that was presented. We also then looked at the audit of compliance with key legislation. Obviously, on the audit of annual financial statement, we didn't have any issues because adjustments were made. We had, however, issues around expenditure management, which has been consistent throughout the years from 2021 up to 2023. We also had findings around consequence management that speaks to investigations, that speaks to the actions that are being taken by the accounting officer in addressing issues that have been reported in the past around fruitless and wasteful and irregular expenditure. We also had major issues around the procurement processes of the department, specifically in 2022-23, and some of it came from the learner feeding schemes, the nutrition program that highlighted a whole lot of high-risk issues when learners were not fed. So there were a whole lot of non-compliance that were reported in the audit reports of the department. So those were the issues that were reported in the audit reports of the department. On the next slide, slide number 8, we give briefing with regards to the financial health of the department. How has the department managed its funds? Obviously, here we note the debt collection period, that it's always been difficult for the department to collect its funds. However, the main areas, critical areas, are around the expenditure management of the department. This department is struggling in terms of managing its funds. It's currently sitting in an overdraft position in terms of its finances. It runs an overdraft, and it's not able to meet its key commitments in terms of paying within 30 days. So we highlighted findings on those. It takes on average, when you look at the payments, around 43 days to make a payment. But what Merusha was highlighting with regards to accruals is also coming across here in the Department of Education, where we picked up that the department in the previous 21-22 financial year, it was carrying a lot of accruals, about 1.24 billion that it carried. That then ends up eating the current budget of 22-23, which means they were not able to achieve on all of their targets across programs because of the accruals that they were carrying in the previous year, being 1.24 billion. That situation, what we assessed, it will also continue in the current year, being 31 March 2024. Because the department also carried 1.43 billion of accruals in the previous audits that we carried. So the impact of this is that the unfavorable going concern position will impact the department negatively, as funds to finance future service delivery projects and even to pay the ordinary expenditure, as well as compensation of employees, will always pose a risk to the department. So it's not able to pay its current suppliers. Moving on to the next slide, Dogozo, slide number 9, which looks at procurement and contract management. And on this audit relating to compliance, when we audited, we had a lot of issues around audit limitations, where we could not find the information from the department supporting supply chain processes. So that's what we reported in the current year. We also had full limitations around the deviations that were being taken by the department. We also had issues around conflicts of interest. The finding were also reporting around the competitive bidding process, the quotation process, as well as the contract management. Obviously, the non-submission impacted quite a lot in terms of the department, in terms of ensuring that it complies with supply chain processes. On the next slide, slide number 10, we highlight the impact of irregular expenditure. Honorable members, when you look at this graph, the department reported 1.6 billion of irregular expenditure in the audit 1920. In the next years, it declined a bit. However, in 2023, there is a huge increase once again of irregular expenditure that has been contributed by the Department of Education to the province. So at year end, it was sitting at 1.5 billion. Once again, just going back to the situation that they were in when you look at it from 1920. And obviously here, what caused this irregular expenditure was the breach of the supply chain processes, services being procured that were not equitable, fair, cost-effective, transparent. And specifically, the major contribution on this was around the extension of contracts relating to the learner teacher support material. So that's what contributed to the huge increase that we see in the financial statements.
So, sorry, Snenhlanhla, I'm not sure if we're on the same slide. The slide I'm looking at, I'm not sure.
We were on slide
No,
9.
They had not changed the slides. So she was talking about something that they had not. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, is it okay now?
It is. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Continue, Sne.
Okay, thank you so much. On the next slide, slide number 11, with regards to unauthorized expenditure and consequence management. On unauthorized expenditure, we seeing a decline on authorized and consequence management. There is a bit of a decline. When you look at 1920, the department had 235.7 million rand of unauthorized expenditure. But when you come to 22-23, the department only had 4 million rand on unauthorized expenditure, spending more than what they had budgeted for. And this was specific to Program 2, the public ordinary schools, in terms of the overspending that the department incurred. The next slide looks at fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And on fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we are seeing a similar trend that we saw in irregular expenditure. In 1920, the department had 7 million rand. Once again, we are seeing that increase once again in 22-23. That the department reporting 7.6 million rand. And this ties back to the financial constraints that the department currently has, not paying their suppliers on time, being charged interest, and having to pay more in terms of the services. The next slide, honorable members, it looks at the achievement of targets. On Program 2, the department achieved 62.5%. Similar to what Merusha has highlighted, this department spent 99.7% of its budget around Program 2. On Program 5, Early Child Development, the target achieved were 25%, budget spent 98%. Program 6, target achieved 87.5%, and the budget spent was 100%. So we see a bit of an alignment on Program 6, but on Program 2 and 5, obviously there are issues, and those issues are being triggered by the huge accruals that are carried in the previous year, where the department spends the money in the next upcoming financial year on paying the services that were incurred in the previous financial year, and that's not meeting on the service delivery targets and achievements. The next slide speaks to the flood audit that was conducted. Remember, honorable members, we issued a special report on flood. And obviously here, the department responded to the province by dispatching mobile units to schools. Similarly to what the previous teams have highlighted, we noted issues around the ground not being properly prepared in terms of being compacted properly, but putting these are high risk. It is a risk to just put a mobile without preparing properly the ground, because when you come to another situation where you get flood, there will be a lot of water around that mobile classroom. That is why we raise those issues. These were inspections that were done by our engineers, giving the specifications to the departments. A follow-up that we conducted on the issues that we reported in the previous year. On the next slide, on the flood audit, it indicated that there is a bit of a slow response with regards to the suppliers attending to the issues that were reported with regards to the snag list that we have highlighted. And obviously, we visited once again some of the schools, specifically the Brittonwood High School, where we noted a lot of issues around the overcrowding and the structural of the buildings that we reported in the previous flood reports. Those issues had not been all addressed, so the learners were still at risk with regards to the issues that we reported. On the next slide, we also did another audit, now going to the other categories that were highlighted by the department, specifically category A, B, and C, where the department now went on to fix other infrastructural projects that were caused by damage. And obviously, the key observations that we had were around the disaster management plan not being properly updated. The department obviously faced financial constraints with regards to the funding not being adequate. There was also a slow progress in terms of some of the repairs that we noted on those infrastructure projects. The next slide highlights the key projects that we audited. And on the key projects that we audited relating to the current year under review, here we looked at the education infrastructure grant over the life cycle of the projects, and we visited 3 schools, JG Zuma, Tongati Special School, and Open Gate. And what we noted is that on those projects, there were cost escalation. Yes, we do note that some of these projects were started around 2020, and obviously they were impacted by lockdown restrictions. But we do noted cost escalation in some of the projects. We noted needs and assessment or feasibility studies not being conducted properly, and thus the department incurring additional cost. We noted that there were variation orders that were also approved around those projects. And we also noted that there's been crime around the community. So obviously, in certain instances, the fence that was previously pre-approved needed to be changed to make sure that the school stays safety around the community. On the school improvement program, on the next slide, we also did another audit that looked at the education sector, and the focus was on the measure to implement school performance improvement program. And obviously here we visited 2 schools, which was Pfma Kzn Audit as well as Langeni combined. I think here the concern was around how the learner school support material was stored. As you can see in those pictures, there was no proper storage that was provided on those 2 schools. So those are some of the things that we just highlighted to the educators, and obviously making awareness of the importance of those storages that are required. The next slide look at the smart schools in terms of the e-learning. Here we tapped into the educational strategy of the department. Here there were here we look at the KZN in terms of assessing the implementation of the digital e-learning through the approved educational strategy, and specifically looking at the utilization of maths and science, as well as technology on the grants that were utilized, as well as the portion of the equitable share, whether the smart classrooms that were supposed to be built, having proper digitization, whether they were there. And obviously we selected some of the schools, and the observations that we had on some of the schools, some of those laptops that were bought, in some schools they were stolen. In certain instances, the schools had issues with network. So the smart classrooms that were supposed to be working effectively are not working properly, and obviously citing the challenges around the network issues. And in some instances, educators are not properly trained to facilitate those processes. One thing that we noted around the procurement or the digitization of these was around the fact that the procurement even of those 40 laptops was also not done through the SETA as required. It was done through another service provider that the department had, just incurring more in terms of the irregular expenditure that the department has incurred. The next slide then looks at material irregularities. Under material irregularities, the Department of Education has 4 material irregularities. When we look at since implementation, we've reported one material irregularity in 2020. There was another one that was reported in 2021, and we had 2 that we reported in 2023. Some of them are not necessary in the audit report because of the processes that they are still going through within the AGSA office. The ones that have been previously reported relate to the interest and penalties on SARS. Those ones, the department is implementing proper controls. It is addressing those, so we have not seen any recurring of those. The ones that are of concern is the salary overpayment in terms of educators not being exited on the PERSAL system once they leave the department. We've also noted in the current year that there is an issue around the overpayment where people are paid more allowances than they are supposed to be paid, thus causing more leakages in the system. So that's one that we still are not happy about. Although in the previous years, the accounting officer was implementing proper controls around it, but there's still huge monies that the department is losing around that area on overpayment. The second one is on ferry boats. The one on ferry boats is still undergoing our internal processes within the office. So we've highlighted and reported and notified the accounting on it. Unfortunately, on this one, the accounting officer is not making appropriate actions. The department procured 8 boats, and out of those 8 boats, only 1 is currently in use. So the other 7 have been idle for quite some time. The last one is on the learners not fed. On the learners not fed, we have notified the accounting officer around the month of September on this material irregularity. The accounting officer has responded to us through a letter. We are still assessing that letter, and obviously we need to have more engagement with the accounting officer, so that one is still in progress. I think those are the main ones, and obviously the observation and recommendations we have highlighted. I think more of them I've spoken about, relating to the committee monitoring the overpayment and holding the accounting officer accountable on those, and obviously taking actions on the other material irregularities that we have noted. Slide number 25, it speaks to the recommendations. We've highlighted issues around record management. We had scope limitations around the supply chain. We are also concerned about the continuous overpayment of the employees of education. We are also concerned about the achievement of targets. specifically on the achievement of targets. That's because of how the budget management is not being managed properly, utilizing budgets, current budgets, because of the previous accruals that we are carrying through. So those are the issues. And obviously the recommendations are around those root causes that we noted, that management needs to be held accountable, that there needs to be proper monitoring, even with regards to investigations. So there also needs to be monitoring. Yes, the Treasury is assisting the department with conducting the investigations. They've completed a lot of investigation. There's only 7 that are in progress with regards to the investigation. And obviously the accounting officer is making steps to take accountability and charge those that needs to be charged. Honorable Chair, that's the end of the presentation of education. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sneh. Colleagues, I want to just open to you for questions. Remember, we are meeting the department, so your detailed clarities can go there. But I think, the way in which the audit was done and some of the issues would assist us if you have any questions. Do you want to take a report from the Provincial Audit and Risk first and then do your questions together? Colleagues?
No, we are fine, Chair, but I see Honourable de Klerk's hand is up.
Yes, I do. No, I'm just asking because there is a report that Provincial Audit and Risk will give us as well. So maybe we should just look at the two together and take questions. I'm sure it's not a very long report. Honourable de Klerk, can you hold your question until then?
No problem, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Zulu, who from your team will give us a brief report?
Thanks, Chair. I'm a bit worried. Madavi has just left. I didn't know we were expected to provide the report. I don't know who she left behind. I was checking names and I don't see Vincent on the list. I don't know, to be honest.
Okay, if that is the case, let's then proceed with the AG. But it is a standard that when we get the briefings, we get a briefing from the AG as well as the Audit and Risk. So I think just for future reference, Mr. Zulu, just ensure that one of your team members is around for that, okay?
Okay. Maybe while you are dealing with this one, I'll check with Madafi. Maybe there's an arrangement that has been made.
Okay, fine. Honourable de Klerk, we can go with your question now.
Thanks, Chair. Mine is just the doubt whether the auditees can continue as a going concern. In a timeline, when is the ground zero, or is this not so serious?
Okay, so I take it, Honourable de Klerk, because we move from financial year to financial year. You are asking whether the department would be able to continue its work in the forthcoming financial year. That would be the 24 financial year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see the hand of Honourable Rogers. Anybody else? Then we can hand over to the AG. Okay, Honourable Rogers.
Thanks very much, Chair. My question is around staff debts. I remember last time we engaged with this department, they had given us a plan and they'd indicated that the situation was improving. I want to know from the AG, in the 2 financial years now, has the situation worsened when it comes to staff debts? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable de Klerk. I don't see any other hands, so let me hand over to the AG.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. On the first question, in terms of the going concern, yes, the department will still continue because we can never go as a country without the services of education. So we still need our kids to go to school, and obviously the government will assist the department to achieve on its mandate. The main issues, even that is around the going concern, is probably the appropriation of the departments needs to be looked at, because you have got 60 billion of appropriation, yet the salaries are already shooting on 50 billion. So which means 83% of the budgets is already on compensation for employee, which then leaves the department with only 17% to achieve, to utilize on other programs. So the funding model needs to be looked at, but also the financial discipline within the department also need to be embraced by the accounting officer and the officials. That then takes me to the second question around the staff debts. Unfortunately, the staff debts have worsened. We in the previous financial year, the department reported, I think when we assessed and picked up the errors, they were around 400 million rand in terms of the overpayment and the allowances, and obviously they were being triggered by the incorrect allowances that were being paid. Treasury has been engaged. They will be assisting the department with putting more controls around the PERSAL system, because that's what we picked up, that in terms of the PERSAL system, there's the controls are a bit weak around the certain codes relating to allowances, and then just triggered overpayments of certain allowances, and obviously late terminations around staff debt. So it is one of the concerns that we have in terms of the leakages that this department has. Thank you.
Thanks. I think members, please raise that issue of the staff debt, because we, went through it with them last year. We did it in February. We were given a plan, etc. And I think now there has to be an issue of consequence management as to why this is not being addressed. Are there any other issues that colleagues will raise, or will you hold for the department?
Slindi department, Manjiche.
Okay, all right, Honorable Taylor. Okay, we are seeing the department at 10. I can see the CFO is here. So maybe let's just, and I can see some of the members of the portfolio committee are present as well. Let's just wait for the HOD to come in. I don't see the HOD here. Okay, so colleagues, let's come back in. Can take a short break. It's 9:44 now. Our meeting is at 10. Let's come back at 9:55. Is that okay? Kabo, can you just check so that we have the department in by 9:50? Well, so we start at 10.
All right.
Okay, colleagues, are we here?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thanks. I think just checking to see who's here from the department. Okay, we don't yet have the HOD or the MEC in, but we do have the CFO, and I think Ms. Maraj from the department. Okay, we will start at 10. Good morning, everyone. I think we are ready to start. This is our hearing with the Department of Education, and it's on the the audit outcomes for the 22-23 financial year, which have been released. And I'd like to welcome all of you to the meeting and ask that we bow our heads for a moment's silence in respect for those who have passed on. Thank you. Okay, so item 2 on the agenda is attendance and apologies. Kabo, I know that we have received some apologies. Can you please just inform the meeting as to the apologies we have received?
Morning, Chair and honorable members, as well as colleagues. Yes, we have an apology from the MEC who said no, she will request to leave the meeting at 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
That's the only apology that we have received. Yes. The MEC will leave early. I'm not sure if the MEC is here with us now, but we'll find out just now. Mr. Zulu, I see your hand is up.
Thanks, Chair. Morning once more. Honorable members, I have an apology from the DDG Internal Auditor, Pius Madavi, and also an apology from the Chairperson of CAG, responsible for Department of Education, Mr. Mtetwa. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Then, Kawa, if you can just flight the agenda, let's just go through the constitution of the meeting and do the adoption of the agenda. The meeting is duly constituted. We have amongst us here a full representation of members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. I'd also like to welcome our colleagues from the Portfolio Committee who are present with us as part of the oversight. But the meeting is duly constituted. So can I then ask that we have a mover and a seconder for the agenda? You can just shout out, colleagues. A mover, please.
Chair, I propose we adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Honourable Rogers. Moving for adoption. Seconder.
Honourable Chair, seconds, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Cele. Then we'll go. Thank you very much. Then let us go. Is the MEC present? Because if she is, we could give her the opportunity to make a few remarks on behalf of her department. If not, we'll go to the...
Morning, Honourable Chair. Present.
Welcome, Honourable MEC. Thank you very much. We're not seeing you. Right.
Okay.
Right. We've received your apology to be released early, so we do understand that. But would you like to make a few remarks before we go to the affirmation by the accounting officer?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. If I may be allowed, I'll be happy.
Thank you. Proceed.
I've opened my camera, but I don't know what is happening. I can see that you can't see me. Thank you, Honourable Chair, honourable members of the legislature, Head of Department of Education, Mr. Ngobo, DDGs and CFO, representatives from the Office of the Auditor General, and all government officials present. I greet you all. We appreciate the opportunity to once again appear before this esteemed committee to report on the department's programs and to receive guidance on how we can further strengthen our ongoing effort to provide quality and accessible education in a safe and conducive environment for learners throughout KwaZulu-Natal. Honourable members, the unqualified audit outcome achieved by the Department of Education is a result of ongoing efforts to enhance capacity and accountability across all departmental levels. Nevertheless, Chair, we acknowledge that there is still considerable work to be undertaken to attain a clean audit. The findings and matters of emphasis outlined in the Auditor General's report stem from inadequate internal controls and other deficiencies within the department, which is leading to unacceptable financial losses amounting to millions of rands. We are acutely aware that urgent measures must be taken to address these deficiencies and strengthen internal controls, as failure to do so may result in a regression in audit outcomes. Chairperson, our commitment is not only to reduce, but where feasible, completely eliminate the material findings raised in the 2022-2023 AG's report. Strides have been made in decreasing overspending in some of the programs and improving the delivery on projects, but more still needs to be done. The department continues to grapple with the challenges stemming from historic debts. These debts happened during the Racial Segregation Department of Education. The department continues to, I beg your pardon, this is largely due to financial constraints resulting from relentless budget reductions, which have left the department facing perpetual underfunding of the post-provisioning norms, the PPN. Despite these challenges, our commitment to the integrity of our education systems remains unwavering. We've taken steps to prevent unauthorized expenditure by implementing measures such as not filling support staff positions in both schools and departmental offices. However, I must hasten to add that sustaining these reductions is proving difficult, and our primary concern is the negative impact this is having on teaching and learning. Unfortunately, the unfunded 2023-2024 wage agreement has further exacerbated our financial situation. We sincerely hope that the National Treasury will consider its decision and provide additional funds, as the wage bill in question is their responsibility, not ours. I must acknowledge that the Provincial Treasury has played a crucial role in assisting us with the internal control measures that the department has implemented, as well as in the process of reducing irregular expenditure. They have even provided us with interns who specialize in finance to boost our human resources. However, the Treasury has also been unable to provide additional funding to ensure that service providers are paid timelessly, as well as to offset the historic debts I mentioned earlier, which originated from the department long ago. If the department does not pay for goods and services rendered on time, service providers charge interest. Regarding the findings concerning fruitless and wasteful expenditure related to the amount paid to SARS for late appointments, the department has consistently maintained that this amount should be reversed, as no fraudulent activity was involved. SARS has committed to offsetting the interest paid by the department. However, it is important to note that the department will continue to face this issue annually, because we need to ensure that we have educators in every classroom. For example, we hire educators in January or February, but payment occurs in April. So the system then backdates from January. The department offered to project and pay in advance, but SARS declined this proposal. On issues of consequence management, I want to assure this committee that it is being implemented to ensure accountability for staff debts and other forms of misconduct. Regarding other financial leakages on PESAL, our stance is unequivocal. These must be eradicated urgently because the department cannot afford to lose a single cent to fraudsters. The accounting officer has informed me that a task team has been established to vigorously address these issues and ensure that those accountability face severe consequences for their actions. Those accountable face severe consequences for their actions. This approach will hopefully also serve as a deterrent to any individual contemplating stealing from the department. Honorable members of the committee, today we can report that following visits by the provincial transversal team, staff debts resulting from the late terminations have decreased. As a preventative measure, the implementation of the e-submission system is assisting in the detention and alerting of relevant directorates about pending exits. This then allows the department to freeze salary payment even before all terminations documents are received. Disciplinary cases of these officials are now part of the Office of the Premier's Operation Bow. Honorable members, regarding misconduct issues, the department has a total of 168 cases, including carryovers from last year. We can confirm that 45 has been finalized and 123 cases are ongoing. The department is actively expediting these cases as part of the Office of the Premier's Operation Bow. Chair, education is a labor-intensive sector. That is why a substantial portion of our budget, amounting to 55.3 billion, is allocated for salaries. Both the HOD and CFO can attest that we are experiencing sleepless nights due to our pressing need for more funding. This is crucial for efficiently fulfilling the department's constitutional mandate of providing quality education in a conducive environment. We need more educators in schools and subject advisors to support our educators in order to improve the quality of our results, but we cannot appoint them because we have no money. Currently, we are grappling with 966 million overdraft, 1 billion in accruals, and every financial year starts with the 1.3 billion sitting on bus waiting to be released. This means the department is spending money before it even receives its allocation for the new financial year. Municipalities are disconnecting electricity in our main offices because we cannot afford to settle the debt initially incurred by schools. Nonetheless, from myself to the HOD and all officials and educators, we are committed to overcoming these challenges. On a positive note, Honorable Chair, we achieved an 83% matric pass rate last year, and we are determined to surpass this even with our current challenges. We will persist in our efforts to achieve the department's objectives, even with minimal resources, because for us, failure is not an option. However, we recognize that we cannot do it alone, and we wholeheartedly welcome the guidance and support of this esteemed committee and Auditor General of South Africa in ensuring that the provision of the best possible education to our learners. Chairperson, I would like to thank you for the opportunity given to me by your good selves. We are committed to the guidance of this committee. Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga.
Thanks, Honorable MEC. You have covered quite a few of the areas of concern that we would want to raise. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate the fact that you have availed yourself. It shows that you take the oversight of your department very seriously. We'll now move, colleagues, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch the video off. We'll now move to the, I'm not sure who is doing the presentation, Honorable MEC, but
okay, I'm going to let you talk though.
Sorry, who is that?
The HOD and the CFO are in the meeting,
Okay.
Honorable Chair. The HOD will guide. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can we then ask whoever is going to speak in the hearing to take the oath or affirmation prior to the presentation by the department? So we'll start with the HOD and you can then direct who is next. It will be those who are going to speak in the meeting.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable MECs, and all colleagues. Chair, HOD is struggling to connect. Oh, you just connected. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so basically, taking the oath or affirmation will be you give your name, do hereby swear to or affirm to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you are swearing to speak the truth, you'll say, so help me God. Let's start with you, HOD.
Okay, while HOD is struggling to connecting, I, Lal Singh Rambaran, as the CFO of the department, swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Thank you. So help me God. I think let the DDGs go, Chair Masuku.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Masuku.
Okay, Dr. Chetty.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honourable members, MEC HOD. I, L.S. Chetty, hereby affirm to speak the truth and nothing but the truth.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Mrs. Imlaba.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. I, Togo Zomlaba, do hereby swear to speak the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you.
I think we just have HOD and advocate to come in, Chair. Sorry, Veziwe, DDG.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and the honorable MEC. I, Weziwe Hadebe, hereby swear to speak the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
DDG Mazubuko, if he's in the meeting.
Okay, we can't.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, CFO. Good morning to the chairperson and the MEC. I'm Bongseni Mazibuko. Hereby swear to speak the truth and nothing else but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Okay, Advocate Masuku.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, honorable members in the meeting. I, Advocate Masuku, hereby affirm to speak the truth, nothing else but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm now in.
Okay, HOD.
Good morning, honorable Chair and honorable members. My apologies, I was struggling connecting. I, Nkosinathi Ngcobo, affirm to speak the truth and the truth only during the proceedings of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we hand over to you, and I can see that your response is being flighted, it's also been emailed to members. Let me just start by saying that the department for the third consecutive year the department has received an unqualified audit with findings, and it's the findings that we are concerned about in terms of your annual financial statements. You have remained at this position for 3 years. There have been findings around a regression around or rather, you have been qualified in terms of your annual performance report on program 2, where you have,
Chair, we can't hear you anymore.
Oh, my apologies. As I say, you have received an unqualified audit with findings, and this position has been maintained over the past 3 years. There are findings around Program 2 Public Ordinary Schools, where the AG has qualified you. On Program 5 Early Childhood Development, you have received, there have been no material findings. Program 6 Infrastructure Development is of particular concern because there are adverse findings there. And then in terms of compliance with legislation, you are fine. Expenditure management, there are material findings, and as well as with consequence management for the past 3 years, including this one. And there are findings, you've regressed from having no findings around procurement and contract management to findings around procurement and contract management. In addition, concerns that we have are around accruals that the department has accumulated and its impact on your budget and your expenditure on service delivery. We also are concerned about your irregular expenditure, your unauthorized expenditure, and your fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And of particular concern as well, which the MEC has alluded to, is the issue of staff debt and debt collection. So those are some of the issues, as well as your expenditure on your infrastructure grants. Those are some of the issues. Obviously, there are others. I'm just summarizing some of the key issues, and we'll now hand over to the department to address these and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and good morning to the honorable members as well as the officials of the department. We are going to be presenting a response to the audit findings in terms of things that we are going to be doing to try and arrest the situation so that it doesn't move towards a regression, even of the audit report. We are going to request the CFO to lead us in the presentation of the departmental response. Mr. Rambaran.
CFO.
Oh, I muted myself. Sorry. Good. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, HOD. Good morning once again to Honorable MEC and Honorable members. As I indicated previously, that it's always nice to leave and train someone behind to assist the department to remain sustainable in all its audit findings and qualifications. I'm going to ask Mrs. Mlaba, the Chief Director, to take us through the turnaround strategies and the way forward in ensuring that we do not regress but progress in the new financial year. Mrs. Mlaba.
Thank you, CFO. Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members. Morning to the MEC, HOD, all the DDGs, AG, and colleagues in the meeting. Thank you for flighting the presentation. I'm going to start from slide 4, dealing with the major findings that been given to the department. The first one is the bank overdraft, which has been indicated that the department has financial health is indicating of an unfavorable position due to increase in staff debts. The response by the department is that the uncertainty is due to budget reductions on compensation of employees, which were increased by the non-funding of the wage agreement. But what we have done is to look closely into the late terminations to curb the increase of debt, and also to look at the growth, to minimize the growth in the bank overdraft as a result of unauthorized expenditure. So the turnaround strategy that the department is implementing is the condonation of unauthorized expenditure by the Department of Treasury is in progress. We have quite accomplished 408 million, which has already been condoned by Treasury, and we are working on the balance out of the 700 million that is there. Turnaround strategy for late termination would be discussed as the presentation progresses. And the challenges with cash flow blocking is that we have been in communication with National Treasury and Provincial Treasury. They have allowed us, especially in this financial year, some of the additional funding to assist with the pressures in the department. So it's a matter that the department is looking into with the treasuries. The next one is the provision for impairment of receivable, which is highlighted that 76%, which is 404 million, has been provided for as a debt impairment. The department has established a task team which looks in the issues of new debts especially. We are going to show that most of this provision is allocated to staff debts, ex-staff members, which has prescribed already, which the department can only write off once funds become available. So what the department is implementing now is to ensure that the debt management is done in district management committees. Training is afforded to HR and finance officials in the district, and then we investigate termination cases, raise debt, and follow up on repayments. The turnaround strategy for the staff debt is currently being audited by Provincial Treasury, and the action plans include reviewing the standard operating procedures and the appointment of debt collectors, which we had done, but the contract had terminated, and we are re-looking at other strategies of collecting. It's also including the workshops that are being held with the district officials. Slide 8 shows the breakdown.
Chairperson. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Rogers, I'm here.
Is it just me, but the signal is terrible? I'm really struggling to listen to the audio. Is it just me?
It may be. Maybe you should move around. It's quite audible to me.
Okay. All right. Then it's just me. Thanks. Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
Audible to me.
Audible to me. I think, Honorable Rogers, it's selective.
Maybe you must just move around, Honorable Rogers, and find a better spot. Okay. Can you carry on, please?
Thank you, Chair. Slide 8 just shows the breakdown of the categories of different types of debt. And with the ex-employees that are over 3 years, for 386 million out of the 550, which shows that there's a 70% of ex-employee debt that has already prescribed, just waiting to be written off when funds becomes available. Slide 9 shows the breakdown in terms of the districts, which ties back to that 550 that includes the in-service debts. The report on the annual performance report is part of the annexures that are going to be presented by Dr. Chetty. And then the report on the compliance with legislation. The material findings on compliance is the expenditure management, specifically talking to the unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. The unauthorized expenditure for this financial for 22-23 amounted to 4 million. Irregular expenditure was 1,519,000 and fruitless and wasteful expenditure being 7,558,000. The breakdown in the years shown for an authorized expenditure is slide 13. And the turnaround strategy, specifically for unauthorized expenditure, is a closer monitoring on the IYM projection that is done on a monthly basis, just to make sure that we don't overspend on line item. We have developed a commitment schedule that we consider payment made against the purchase orders. Environments are done timelessly and are recorded against the allocation budget, and we are looking at the approved procurement plan and matching them to the requisitions that are provided, just to make sure that we don't necessarily, especially in goods and services, exceed budgets. Irregular expenditure, the turnaround strategy, is the development and the review of the supply chain management compliance checklist, which will make sure that all the required documents are present. And then we've engaged Provincial Treasury on providing training to SCM bid committees and SCM officials. Also, the report is going to include contract management as a standing item at main committee, so that there's a monitoring of all contracts that expire prior to 6 months, that they are flagged and monitored timelessly. Irregular expenditure, we're providing a breakdown. Mainly it's goods and services. For the past 2 years, only in 2021 was the irregular expenditure as a result of payments of capital assets. Page 17, slide 17 also is showing the reconciliation on irregular expenditure. On payment of suppliers over 30 days, the main issue is the cash flow challenges as a result of budget shortages and also cash blocking. But we do have a turnaround strategy to improve where it's on the department side that we have not, paid, that we review and update the SOPs and the submission of invoices by the responsibility managers. The turnaround time is going to be monitored in a stricter, we're going to implement stricter controls. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure, this mainly is a result of domestic accounts that are paid in arrears, especially to Section 21 schools. We have got 7.5 million in 2023 financially, which is a steep increase from the prior years. Slide 20 is showing that breakdown, which is interest on overdue account is actually 7 million, which is a substantial amount allocated to fruit and wasteful expenditure. As indicated, it's amounts paid to municipalities, interest on late payments for Section 21 schools that have not paid, that have failed to settle their debts. And the turnaround strategy that we are implementing on fruitless and wasteful is to review and update the SOPs where it is within our controls to implement stricter controls for the approval and the submission of invoices. We developed the invoice tracking tool, which will be placed on a server and monitored by finance. And then where there are disputes, those are documented in invoice and follow-up are made and resolutions provided. Consequence management. The HOD has appointed a multidisciplinary team, which have the details attached on an annexure on the consequence management where we have provided where there's actually investigation has been performed, and then we have found somebody accountable for that. So the task team is going to be looking at implementing consequence management. This task team includes legal services, employee relations, internal control, and risk management. Material irregularity, slide 24. For 2020, There's a material irregularity on late payment of PAYE to SARS. There's ferry boats that are not utilized. There's in 2023, there was learners that are not being fed, NSNP, and number 4 is SARS penalties. We have made progress with the SARS penalties, as we have appointed a legal representative. The engagement are going on between SARS and the legal representative, and subsequently we have not had any late payments on PAYE, and therefore there are no further interest and penalties that have been charged by SARS. We have also improved on the standard operating procedures and the consequence management, which address the issue of staff debts that has been developed and rolled out on all districts. There is also a task team that is looking also at staff debts and making improvement strategies to make sure that no new debt is realized. We continue slide 27 and 28 is those action plans that we have already commented on regarding SARS, which is already underway. And then the last one is the summary, which is slide 30. The summary on the procurement of contracts. That is just the findings that we are currently having, which indicates there's a material non-compliance, and we are implementing strategies to make sure that these contracts are monitored on a monthly basis with the districts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Who is doing the next presentation?
Chair, Honorable Chair, on the annual one, Dr. Chetty will do it.
Okay, let's take all the presentations, then ask questions, members. Dr. Chetty.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to honourable members, MEC, HOD and top management. I'm just waiting for the flighting.
Okay, it has come in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Tracy, if you could just increase the font size. Thank you. Chair, in terms of the slide 1, we look at the material findings related to performance information. The first finding was the one related to the MTSF indicators not included in the annual performance plan. Now, we had a lengthy discussion with the AG, and the root cause of this was a directive has not been given by DBE on the standardization of the MTSF indicators in relation to technical indicator descriptors. Now, one of the requirements for the inclusion of any indicators in the annual performance plan is that every indicator should have a technical indicator descriptor as well as standard operating procedures. Because DBE and DPME are the main custodians of these indicators, and they had not settled on the tier IDs, we brought this to their attention. The intervention is to communicate with DBE via the Headcom Subcom for planning on issues raised by AG pertaining to the indicators. DBE was requested by KwaZulu-Natal as well as all other provinces to issue a directive by the DG on the inclusion or the condonation of the MTSF indicators in the APP. Now, be that as it may, Honourable Chair, all the MTSF indicators are included in our operational plans, and we did reveal this to AG. But AG indicated that they don't monitor or audit the operational plans. Hence, there was a finding related to this. Now, once we are given the desired outcome is the provision of technical indicator descriptors for the MTSF indicators by DBE. Once this requirement is met, then we will be able to clear this particular finding. In terms of slide 2, that is the NSNP, the method of calculation for achieving the planned NSNP indicator was not clearly defined. The root cause, management did not ensure that the output indicators meet SMART criteria as defined in the Framework for Managing Program Performance Information. Now, Chair, this was a previous finding in the previous year. The manager for the performance indicator had attended to the calculation method. But during the last round of audit, the AG was still not satisfied with the calculation method. The intervention agreed upon with the performance indicator manager for NSNP is to avert the adverse audit findings for NSNP. The technical indicator description for NSNP will be reviewed to clearly indicate the method of calculation for achieving the planned NSNP output indicator. Now, Chair, in the past, there were issues raised about poor record keeping and so on, but this time around, it wasn't related to the record keeping as such. It was actually the technical indicator descriptor not indicating the calculation method clearly. The NSNP manager, together with the department, we feel that we will engage with the AG, DPME, and DBE on the method of calculation for achieving the planned indicator and finalize the method of calculation. The reviewed TID to clearly indicate the method of calculation. We will review that. Now, we are busy with the 2023-2024 review of the APP, and we are also busy with the 2024-2025 draft annual performance plan. Now, Chair, the indicator, the calculation method has already been changed in the reviewed document as well as the 2024-2025 draft annual performance plan, which is due for submission to DPME and Office of the Premier this Friday, the 13th. The next slide, slide 4.
Chair, I'm not sure if it's me or the presenter has disappeared.
No, I'm around. The presentation appears on my side, Chair.
Are you talking about the presenter or you can't share anything, Honorable?
CFO,
yeah, sounds like it's on her side.
He is audible.
Yeah, on my side, I can see and hear everything. I don't know. Chair, can you?
Audible on our side.
I think we've lost Chair.
No, you are audible.
Thank you, Chair. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we move on to the next slide, and that deals with the infrastructure findings. Now, Chair, before I go through each finding, the AG did engage with the department, the DDG, as well as all the managers for the performance indicators that relate to infrastructure. Now, the problem arose, Chair, where infrastructure projects set their targets in the fourth quarter and they report annually. But for the purposes of reporting to oversight, infrastructure last year has been reporting per quarter on progress of the projects. In other words, they were also reporting on incomplete projects, just to give us an idea as to what percentage of achievement was achieved. AG was not happy with that. AG said, as long as you report, you must have completion certificates. Now, infrastructure is quite adamant. The completion certificates could only be issued at the end of the financial year when implementing agents and the people with the technical skills do go through every project to see that they meet every requirement, and then a certificate is issued. But be that as it may, Chair, there was a finding made. The first one, some infrastructure projects reported on in the third quarter were not reported on in the annual performance report. The root cause was validation, and verification was conducted at the end of the financial year. The intervention that the department has put in place, the department has introduced verification of all completed projects and recorded achievements by senior infrastructure officials. The verification entails visiting all schools, checking for alignment between scope of work and work executed on the site and the quality thereof. The desired outcome is availability of accurate, validated, and verified performance information on an ongoing basis. And we have our timeframes there, and the responsibility is the Infrastructure Directorate. The next slide, please. The next slide deals with the finding water infrastructure provided at some schools did not work as intended. That is, did not provide the school with access to water. The root cause was municipalities did not provide schools with access to water. And the intervention, the department will engage with municipalities on ensuring continuous supply of water. And the desired outcome, continuous supply of water. Chair, as we speak now, we are at the mercy of the municipalities. The Greater Durban area, Chatsworth, Reservoirs, and so on, at the moment today don't have water as well. And so when AG does visit a school today, they would have a finding that water is not coming out through the taps. And in some of the schools, this was the case, Chair. The next slide. Projects. Finding projects relating to completed electricity repairs and maintenance on schools were reported as achievements under SOI 602 instead of being reported under a standardized output indicator 605, which deals with maintenance. And the root cause was misalignment of completed work against scope of work. Here again, the department has introduced the verification process to ensure that there is alignment. Here again, just a bit of background, Chair. The department has reported that we provided electricity supply to certain schools that were either totally vandalized and all the electric cables and so on were taken away, and that was considered to be the provision of electricity. But the AG says, no, that should not be reported as a provision of electricity. It must now be reported as a maintenance, part of the maintenance project. And we've taken heed of that, and infrastructure is working on that. The next slide, please. Okay. Okay, Chair, I think we've come to the end of the slides. Thanks, Chair. I submit.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chetty. Is there anybody who wants to add to that report on infrastructure? Okay. HOD, is there another presentation?
No, Chair, those are the two presentations that we have in response to the AG's findings. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, you're currently on mute.
Sorry, Mr. Rambaran, I see your hand is up.
No, I was going to just say to Chair, those are the two main presentations, but they are annexures, and I think it is monotonous for us to go through the annexures, but if members would want to refer to anything in the annexures in their question and answer, we will do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Rambaran. We've also emailed these presentations to members, so they would be able to go through them at their leisure. Colleagues, let me then open for members to raise any matters that they wish to raise. I know there are several issues that members are concerned about. I see the hand of Honourable Rogers. We'll take it in the order as they come. I see Honourable Rogers, yes. Okay, that is the hand that I see for now. Honourable Rogers, Honourable de Klerk, Honorable Cele. Is there anybody else? Okay, so let's take the three of you for now. Starting with you, Honorable Rogers.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Chair, I'm quite concerned about the department, and I want to take you through what my concerns are. Now, if I look at the AG's report, it flags expenditure management and it flags consequence management. And if you look at the current financial crisis that the department finds itself in, those are the two key issues where we are seeing no improvement, yet there are material findings. Now, you know, we've heard about turnaround strategies year in and year out, yet the proof is in the pudding when you look at expenditure management and consequence management where there's absolutely no improvement. Now, we were also told that there's been an improvement in the staff debt. Well, in our engagement with the AG, I actually put the question to the AG and said, has the situation improved? And the response was no, it's actually deteriorated. So it seems the AG and the department are speaking different languages when it comes to the staff debt. Now, I'd like an answer in exactly how this staff debt arises. If somebody can dumb it down for me as to what needs to happen for this staff debt to incur. Is it one individual that sits in HR, or is there various individuals? Because at the end of the day, if there's going to be no consequence, we're not going to solve this problem. Now, Chair, I also raised during the AG's briefing that for the last two engagements with the Department of Education with SCOPA, we'd been told that the situation was under control. There was a system in place that would stop the escalation of staff debt. And clearly, we are not seeing that. So I want somebody to dumb down that process for me so I can understand how this is being incurred. And I also want to understand what steps, if any, have been taken against these individuals. But I think that needs to be unpacked. I don't think to give us a figure of that there's 200 odd investigations is going to cut it anymore, because that's all we hear. But we actually never see that improvement with the department. Chair, I then want to go on to, when I'm talking about expenditure management and consequence management, there are two areas that are absolutely glaring. And again, if you look at irregular expenditure, it's sitting at 1.5 billion, which is the highest it's been over the last 2 years. What's really of concern when I look at the AG's report, when it comes to the explanation of the irregular expenditure, it says money recovered, 0. Any irregular expenditure approved, 0. Written off, 0. Not dealt with, 6.7 billion. And the reason is the department has not performed investigations into irregular expenditure incurred in the prior year, which takes me right back to what I said. The problem this department sits with is expenditure management and consequence management. The last example I'd like to use is that of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. That is now the highest it's ever been in the last 3 years. But once again, we're sitting on 7.6 million rand in fruitless and wasteful expenditure. If you look at the AG's analysis, money recovered, 0. Condoned, 0. Written off, 0. Not dealt with, 199.8 million. Reasons: the department has not performed investigations into fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Chairperson, clearly we cannot go on like this. This department is critical to the province, and listening to the MEC, the 1 billion rand accruals that we sit on, the 966 billion overdraft that we sit on, The fact that National Treasury might not bail the department out on any wage agreement really gives us a concern. It has the potential to actually bring the entire province down. I want some answers as to why the department is not dealing with those critical issues that I've referred to, that is expenditure management and consequence management. It needs to break it down as to why this is continuing to occur. Is it a lack of capacity? What exactly is the reason? Those are my questions at this stage. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Rogers. Honourable de Klerk.
Thank you, Chair. A lot what I wanted to ask has been covered. I just want to add, firstly, just on something the MEC said, that the province is looking at Treasury, as was stated, to bail them out. Now, that has already been clarified. There is no money to bail out the provinces, so that is a major problem. And to put it at the feet of Treasury is incorrect. It was a decision taken by government, the same government that's in control of this province. So that's where the problem lies and should be dealt with, to advise the MEC on that. Regarding the department, we once again here for turnaround strategies. This department has shown through the years that it is not turnaround strategies. It is steaming ahead into oblivion. And unfortunately, that's why the Auditor General has the doubt of the going concern of this department. And we see it in their execution of their mandate. We saw it very clearly also with the flood relief that was severely lacking. We have a serious problem. There is no consequence management whatsoever. I have in the past, many years, asked who's going to be fired. Clearly, nobody is going to get fired. No political head will take responsibility. Responsibility will be shifted to others. And thus, I will say today that in the near future, this province will be suffering severely because of the poor control, poor management of the Department of Education. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable de Klerk. Honourable Taylor.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Chair. Greetings to Honourable MEC and HOD, CFO, and colleagues from the Department of Education. Mine, Chair, is just few clarities that one is requesting for the department to give us. Even though Honourable de Klerk wants to make it as if there's a doom and gloom, it's the end of days. We know that it's not. Students are still at school, they are eating. Yes, there are financial problems that the department is facing. One finds comfort in what the MEC has spoken of, on what are the things that they've put in place and the responses by the department. I do find comfort in some of the things that they've given us as responses. So one can see that there is an interest in improving what we see in front of us. We can't take away the fact that there is a financial challenge that we are faced with as the province when it comes to the Department of Education and Department of Health, which even the Auditor General herself has said that we need to look at the funding model that is used for the Department of Education. But there's something that was raised, Chair, when it comes to the signing off of mobile units at schools. which is part of the report by the Auditor General, that some of these mobile units were not signed off. I just need to know, why were they not signed off? And these units, they are already at schools. Why haven't we done something as simple as that? The second question that I would like to pose to the department is, there's something that we've been saying, that clean audits or audit reports must go hand in glove with service delivery. And the Auditor General has picked up that Program 2 and Program 5 have not reached, they've given themselves, what you call, I don't know what's happening with me this morning, you'll forgive me. They've given themselves, okay, I'll come back to that question. But for now, can I just be given that answer? And I hear Ms. Mlaba speaking of about 500,000 that will be written off of staff debt. I think I understand where Honorable Rogers is coming from. And I saw there is a report that's given per district to say that these are the amount of monies that will be written off per district. How do we get to that? Why are we writing off so much money? Why are these monies not recovered from these staff members? I just don't understand it. I'll come back, Chair, on Program 2 and Program 5 that have not reached their targets. Yeah, it's the target. That's the word I was looking for. It's the targets that they've put themselves, that they've said they were going to reach, and they have not, which has led, for an example, Program 5 has reached 25%, only 25%, and yet they've spent the total budget of Program 5. So is Program 2. Why haven't those two programs, they've reached their own target that they've set for themselves, which has made the Auditor General to believe that the department has not reached those targets, and it has caused very low service delivery for the department. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Cele. Are there any other members who wish to raise issues? Okay, then let me. I think, I'm not sure if Honourable MEC is still with us, but...
My apologies, Chair. I forgot the last one of the ferry boats.
Okay, carry on.
Sorry. There's an issue of salary overpayments as well as part of material irregularities, which perhaps, can I just get a bit of clarity on that? And the issue of boats. I think it was all over the news that there are about 7 boats that are sitting at Sharksport, which are not collected. Is that true? Can we be given clarity on the issue of the ferry boats that were bought and they still are not being used? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Cele. That was one of the issues I was going to raise as well, so thank you for that. I think when the first presentation was done, it was presented, their ferry boats, as an audit, one of the issues raised in the AG's report, but it wasn't addressed. And my understanding is that there were 8 boats purchased at quite a large cost, several millions, and one of those boats is being used. And the purpose for these boats was learner transport. So one doesn't understand.
Chair, have you disappeared or is it me?
Oops, sorry, Honourable Cele. I think there's something I went onto mute. Sorry, I was going to say thank you for raising the issue of the boats. It was something I was going to raise as well. It is in the auditor's report, and the first presentation reflected that there was this query, but it wasn't responded to. my understanding is 8 boats had been purchased at a fair cost, several millions. And one of these boats, I think, might be operational for learner transport. The issue, of course, would be, having spent this money, why are these vessels left standing? And obviously the condition of them, etc. Would it then now be tantamount to wasteful expenditure if boats are left standing and not being used? So that I wanted to add to what you were saying, Honorable Taylor. The second issue I want to raise is the issue of the accruals. You see, this department has been warned, and before your time, HOD, I think before you and even before you, the issue of accruals, which is where debts, owing to service providers, etc., have not been paid in the financial year and then get carried through into the next financial year. And the problem here is that in 21-22, 3.8 accruals carried through. And now what we find is that 3.8 billion is going to have to come out of, conservatively, of the next year's budget. It then means that if, for example, you have a budget of 5 billion, 3.8 billion of that is already taken, because you would have to pay service providers. And it then means that whatever you're projecting for service delivery is drastically reduced. And then that is an issue as well. The other concern in relation to this is that the department is using its overdraft, which means that you are robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that is a problem. I think that in terms of the issue of debt collection and staff debt, the department, when we met you the last time, you acknowledged that it was difficult keeping a track of staff members who resigned, retired, etc., and this resulted in them continually being paid, but that you had devolved this process to districts so that it could be better managed and you could track it. However, the department has now gone and incurred again an additional 123 million in the current financial year, which means you don't have a handle on this. And it is a real problem, because this is not money owing to people who have provided services. This is people who have gone out of the system. It's extremely difficult to get that money back. And as has been reported, a substantial amount of that debt has become prescribed. Now, of course, you've got the new debt that you have to try and collect. What I also want to get clarity about is, we were told the last time that you were employing debt collectors on a commission basis to try and recoup some of this. What has happened there with your debt collectors? Have they collected anything? Because it doesn't seem to be showing in your audited findings. And this is a real problem. Then, in terms of infrastructure development, part of the issue is that, as Honorable Taylor has pointed out, you've got mobile classrooms, which is correct. You needed to deal with flood damage, for example. But if you haven't made sure that they are in a suitable condition to be handed over, you bring in further challenges to the department and to the province as a whole, because if something has to happen, learners in those mobile classrooms, because they have not been verified or tested for suitability, then the ball comes back to, falls in the department's court. In terms of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, I think this is a problem as well. Your interest on accounts, overdue accounts, you are saying that it's because of schools that have not paid their debts, but the interest comes back to the department. So there's got to be a better way of managing debt. I mean, we see every year in the newspapers headlines saying, provincial government in debt to municipalities. And it's a ripple effect, because if the debts are not paid, municipalities suffer as well, and they can't do their service provision. So this has to be sorted out in whatever way. And then with the NSNP, we found that, there was a whole fiasco that occurred this year, but fortunately the department stepped in, sorted out an emergency procurement for a period of 11 months. Now, we'd like to be told what is the situation of the NSNP now? We are in October. We don't want to find in January next year that learners are sitting without food. We've seen that you are experimenting with other models, providing less raw food to schools, but actually able to cater for more learners, etc. But the issue of your NSNP service providers, please tell us about it. And then the last one, there have been cost escalations because of infrastructure, and this has resulted in additional cost to the department because costs have gone up. I think, we'd like to know how you're going to manage this so that you don't incur further, because that becomes fruitless expenditure because your contracts are not managed properly, and as a result of that, you have cost escalations. I'll stop there for now. Are there any other colleagues who want to? I see your hand up, Honorable Taylor. Honorable Taylor? Legacy hand. Okay, fine. Okay, we'll hand over to the department. HOD, you'll tell us which of your team is going to respond.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to the honourable members for the questions and comments. Indeed, almost all your concerns are basically our concerns as well, and we are dealing with them to really the best we can, and we actually believe that it may take time, but the strategies that we are trying to employ will bear fruit. I think I'll respond to just a few, and DDG Hadebe will speak to the issue of infrastructure, particularly the mobiles, the handing over of them or the signing off of them. She will explain a bit there. And on other issues, the CFO is going to be, coming in, but I will take the major ones, that members are raising. The expenditure management part, I think the root cause of our difficulty in managing expenditure is obviously the fact that our department is a labor-intensive department, and we have indicated in various forums and oversight committees that the source of our problems is inadequate or compensation budget, which is not enough for the number of employees that we have, coupled with the wage agreements, the wage adjustments, which are always not fully funded. Every year are not fully funded by National Treasury. In other words, we agree at national level on a certain percentage increase, but when it comes to refunding provinces, National Treasury doesn't refund or doesn't, give us the full complement deserved in terms of the wage agreement. In 2022-23, the financial year in question, it got worse because not only have they, this time around, they've not given us, a cent to cater for the wage adjustment. In previous years, they would give us something, not the full amount, but this year they've given us zero. But we are still in discussions with them to at least, pay us, for the wage agreement, because the wage agreement that we're talking about has already been paid to employees, and they were paid their adjusted wages in April and May this year. So it already has eaten up to our budget, and that is why we are struggling. So managing the expenditure then becomes difficult in that sense, and that is why even in the past financial years we have had this over expenditure or unauthorized expenditure. It's mainly due to the fact that our compensation budget is not fully funded, and in any event, 90% of our budget goes to salaries. So even the savings you try to make from goods and services are savings you make from the 10%, which mathematically means, you can't make enough savings, to bail you out of a 10%. And the 10% we're talking about is for goods and services, which are also critical, because if you cut from goods and services to try and add into the compensation of employees budget, you are going to suffer in your inability to pay for your electricity, inability to pay your service providers, and that is what happens when your compensation budget is not enough, because PESAL simply pays people in terms of after at the end of every month, PESAL pays people whether there is money or not. PESAL runs and pays people, and that's where the over expenditure is actually happening. But there's nothing you can do, because you are not going to be able to reduce the staff. You can't retrench teachers. If you retrench teachers, education will come to a standstill, and no one in the country, in the province and the country would say we must go that route of actually reducing the number of teachers to be equal to our budget, and that's where our issue is. The next one that I will briefly talk about, and I think the CFO and colleagues will also add, is that one of staff debt. And Honorable Rogers is asking, how does it happen? The bulk of it happened many years ago, even before the current Department of Education existed. The debt was inherited from ex-departments, before the amalgamation. And a lot of it is way beyond 3 years and can't be recovered. Actually, practically can't be recovered. We can try, but it has actually prescribed. And the figures that are here before us show that 386 million is beyond 3 years, which means it has actually prescribed, and that is what is causing this figure, to be this high. If 386, in fact, close to 400 million is prescribed, it actually means it's just over 100 million that is actually live debt. It's employees who exited the system a long time ago, possibly some deceased. And recovery would be even, to sue their estates. And in any event, if we did so, we would find that courts would tell us that, and the defense they would raise is that the debt has actually prescribed. The second category of debt, answering the question of how it occurs, are current employees. With current employees, we are able to recover the debt because we still pay them salaries. But we are also limited by the laws governing debt recovery from employees. If an employee owes us 20,000 rand and they also earn, they earn 15,000 rand, you can't take the whole 15,000 rand. You have to take money such that they are able to come back to work tomorrow, such that they are still able to eat at home, and those are, those are policies that government follows, because it's part of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, that you can only recover monthly installments of so much, and you can't go beyond a certain figure. So we are doing recoveries on those debts. But how do they occur? In general, serving staff debts occurs because of leave, generally sick leave, that is not confirmed by the health risk manager. When a person, for example, goes on leave for a month, being sick and so on, with their own doctors giving them, medical certificates that they are sick. If they then go to the health risk manager, our health risk manager, who assesses them, the health risk manager may actually say that of the 30 days that they've already taken, maybe only 5 were deserved, and the other 25 are not really recommended for approval as paid leave. Then the debt occurs because we've already paid them for 30 days, and the health risk manager says only 5 of those days are deserved. So they then have a debt of that 25-day salaries that we've paid. But the good thing about in-service staff debt is that we are able to recover that debt because we recover it from their salaries. Out of service staff, the difficulty is that because they are no longer there, and in any event, most of it has expired, it's very difficult to recover. The debt collectors contract has expired. They did recover something, but their success was not that much because of prescription of the debt, and also because in some cases some of the debtors, the ex-staff members, could no longer be or be traced as to where they now live, because the addresses that they had left are addresses of when they were still working. After retirement, it has not been easy even for them to actually do the tracing. And of course, tracing on its own, if you get tracing, agents to trace is a very expensive exercise. I think our strategy, as reflected here, is looking more at preventing accumulation of staff debt through late terminations, and that is where our weakness is, and that's the weakness that we're dealing with. But not all debt is as a result of late terminations, as I've just explained. Some of it is as a result of a leave that has already been used, days that have already been used, but are later not approved by the health risk manager. Right, on issues of irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure not investigated and so on, I think the CFO is going to comment on that. But a general comment that I can make is that part of what has happened because of our struggles with compensation budget is that we have not filled certain posts. If I can tell you that when we're talking about investigating irregular expenditure, how many people we have in the department who do that investigation, the answer is one. Only one person is overwhelmed with that kind of responsibility of investigating irregular expenditure. That's why it's slow. And because of our compensation budget problems, we are struggling to fill posts to assist in that. So one thing leads to another. Because you of your compensation budget, there are certain critical posts that you end up not filling or taking too long to fill, with the problems accumulating in the meantime, while you only have one person who's dealing with the investigations. But I must indicate that where investigations have been completed and they point to consequence management, that I am certain of. We do implement consequence management where investigations have been completed and they are pointing to some misconduct on the part of particular employees. I mean, on the for example, on the overpayments of as an example, which Honorable Cele was raising on that question of overpayment. We when the Auditor General raised this as a finding, we requested the one employee who does investigations to stop other investigations and concentrate on this one. And he has given us a preliminary report, and that preliminary report is actually saying that we have to act, and we have found the employees who are mainly responsible for that, although the investigation is still ongoing. But I can report here that at least 3 employees are already implicated, and soon you will be hearing of consequences, and even more than just disciplinary processes. I'm not going to be disclosing that, but some of the people involved in this will actually, I'm waiting just for a few final, touch-ups on the report, and I can say here that we will actually be opening, criminal cases against some people, and such is the way in which we take seriously the question of consequence management. The ferry boats issue. Chair, the ferry boats issue, they were like, it's a transaction that happened years, ago, around 2016, 17. What we have conceded to as a department is that we probably had not done the feasibility studies. Because when we ordered the boats, they were supposed to be used for learners who cross rivers, and the rivers that where they were supposed to be used, most of them are actually too shallow to handle or to be used by these boats. And hence the boats then arrived and could not all be utilized. But now that when we took over, we immediately started a process of ensuring that these boats are actually used elsewhere, and that process is still ongoing, where we want to actually recoup the money by selling these boats, or transferring them to another state department where they will actually be useful, and not lie at shark spots and elsewhere unutilized. That's the process, and we have informed the AG of that process that we're going that we are undertaking as we speak, to ensure that these boats end up being utilized by government. I think I have dealt with the last one, of course, that I think I will deal with myself, is that one of NSNP service providers. We are doing everything we can to ensure that the program is not disrupted again. And it's actually regrettable that what happened in April, when learners in some schools were not fed, but in the majority of schools, of course, we know that there was food, but still there are learners that were not fed. We arrested the situation quickly by causing the service providers that had been appointed, giving them a contract to supply until the end of the financial year. We are looking now with advice legally at whether we were at the time when we should advertise, permanently. But of course, I must indicate that there are some legal challenges and there are legal matters that we have to deal with, so that we get proper advice legally in terms of what is it that is our option. So the NSNP unit as well as legal services are working on that, and they will be advising us as to the way forward to ensure that come April 1 next year, the problems that we had in April this year are not repeated. I think the CFO and as well as DDG Hadebe and Dr. Chetty to quickly go through the issues that I've not touched. Thank you. CFO?
Thank you, HOD. I think HOD has covered most of the financial sides, but I just want to indicate to Honorable Rogers and the chair and all those who are concerned about the increase in debts. So I just want to give Mrs. Mlaba, who's heading the task team in reducing the debts. But just to give a preamble, these debts are not occurred in one place. We have 12 districts and we have the head office. So termination occurs at in all the 13 areas. So if it is not caught in time, then the debt will increase, meaning terminations. And as HOD has alluded to the fact, in terms of terminations, I think late terminations, we have introduced those tools and they are helping. So we need to just analyze and provide insight into the categories of debts that's been increasing and the categories of debts that have been decreasing. So MEC has been alluding to the fact that debts are decreasing, which are in-service debts, because in-service debts are decreasing because we can collect. Out-of-service debts are debts out of the stuff is out, and it is really difficult to collect them, as HOD has alluded to, that about 400 million is out of service debt. Colleague, just forgive me. I hope I'm seeming to be out of breath, but coping with that kind of, I don't know what it is called, flu. It is. But I just want to indicate to the honorable members that the issue of the two main areas, consequence management and expenditure management. Yes, consequence management is, and I think DDG Masuku will come in here, where we've been trying very hard to implement it, meaning take action and implement it. But there are many areas that delays the process. One of the areas is, as Honorable Rogers has indicated, is lack of capacity. This department doesn't have a fully fledged internal control unit with the proper skilled people, nor does it have an internal audit unit to ensure proper control and efficiency in all the areas of weaknesses. Now, the question, why is obvious. Obvious because there is no funding to fill these posts. If this company was listed in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and if you compare a company listed there with 60 billion rands and this department with 60 billion rands, and if you do that comparison in terms of skills in a private company and the tools that they have, and you look at our department with the skills and capacity we have and the funds and the tools that we have is unbelievable. We do
Chair.
a budget. Yes. Yes, Chair.
No,
Honorable Taylor?
No, Honorable Chairperson. May I find out who is the fellow who's talking right now?
The fellow is the CFO, Honorable Nandi. Am I out of order?
We are not children.
Honorable Taylor?
If we can't be addressed like this, Chair.
No, am I out of order? If I'm out of order, I will withdraw. But I'm trying to explain why.
Wait.
Mr. Rambaran, just hold on.
Listen to the chairperson.
Hold on.
No. This person can't talk to us this way. This person can address us as if he's talking to children.
Yes, I was actually.
When he says it's obvious. It's obvious to who? It's obvious to who? Who is that? Who are they? Not the people who are accountable to the department? No, Chair. Can we be respected in this meeting, please?
Thanks, Honorable Taylor. Look, Mr. Rambaran, I think one of the difficulties I was having, and maybe I must thank Honorable Taylor for intervening, is that you are explaining things that we don't really want to hear about whether you were a private company or not. For us, you're not a private company, so it's an academic question. What we want to know as the Standing Committee on Public Accounts is how have public funds been expended? Have they been expended as they should, etc.? Now, thus far, what we've been hearing are a string of excuses. And unfortunately, this doesn't take us in any way forward. What we'd want to see is more of what we saw in Dr. Chetty's report, which is your audit strategy and how you intend turning things around. I'll give you an example. Debt collectors. In the AG's report, it says that you've employed debt collectors. You come here and we are told that your debt collectors contract has expired. The NSNP, we are told that people are working on it and that come August, we will not have a problem. We are now in October. How long are people going to be working on this? By now, there should have been a strategy in place. In fact, what should have been happening is that in the next month, you should have been advertising for service providers. Because December, as we all know, is a period where you all go on leave, right? So come January, when kids come back to school, we're going to be sitting with emergency provision, which is not acceptable. So Dr. Rambaran, really, Mr. Rambaran, really, whilst we respect you, we also want you to respect us. And don't avoid the questions with long-winded explanations, because we, as Honorable Taylor has pointed out, we are not children here.
Yeah, Chair, my apologies, Chair and Honorable.
Wait.
Sorry, who is speaking now? I cannot. Can you put your hand up and say who you are?
It's Honorable Mchali, Chair.
Oh, Honorable Mchali, sorry. Unfortunately, yes, carry on.
I wanted to come in before he comes as well, because when Honorable Cele was still raising the very same point, Chair, he kept on interjecting her and saying that, am I out of order? If I'm out of order, tell me. We don't do that in these meetings, CFO. We wait for the chair to give us an opportunity, and then we're able to interact once we're given. We don't speak on top of an honorable member while they are also speaking. Please respect this meeting, but also emphasizing what the chairperson was saying. For me, I've been listening to you. You are not saying anything to us. We're not here to play. We take ourselves very seriously. We believe anyone who comes to a SCOPA meeting comes prepared, comes with the response is that because you knew what was it that was expected of you way ahead before you come to this meeting. So please, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Charlie. Mr. Ngobo, HOD, I see your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Chair. You know, I'm raising my hand to apologize for the colleague, our CFO, and to actually apologize on behalf of the department, and to say that I think he was trying to add on things that I've already covered in my response on financial issues, and we request that any unpalatable words uttered that seem to suggest that the honourable members are being undermined, that we want to withdraw those on behalf of the department, because he is actually repeating on things that I had already said, and he's actually trying to give further explanations. Let me just, through you, Chair, request that maybe we allow Mr. to actually and if honourable members have got more questions again, I will come back to deal with those.
Thank you, Mr. Ngobo. Let me just, so that we're all on the same page. You see, one of the issue of the ferry boats has not been addressed. We are told that you are looking at it, etc. The questions here are, these are assets. Public money was invested to purchase these ferry boats. Now they're sitting somewhere. What is their current value? What is the current status of them? And what is the way forward? We'd want a plan. Clearly, there's no plan here, so you're going to have to provide us with that. The second thing is, in terms of these investigations, the AG's report is clear. Irregular expenditure, unauthorized expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. There are no investigations that have been conducted. So people are not held accountable. Now, some of these things are eminently avoidable. For example, the fruitless and wasteful expenditure emerged from the non-payment of PAYE of departmental employees since 2017. You paid it in 2020. SARS levied interest charges. Who was held accountable for that non-payment? That's an example. Then in terms of the NSNP, we want to hear your plan, right? Not we are working on it, because we are now in October. Tell us the plan so that next year there is correct procurement that is done. Learners get their food. We don't have the disaster that we have now. So we want that plan. Then we are told that you are struggling as a department because of your compensation of employees, and you are unable to pay that. And we understand about the increases, etc. But when you look at what your department, in terms of its budget, your accruals are so large that it squeezes out money that you get allocated by the government. Provincial government, national government allocates education the lion's share of the provincial equitable share. This is getting squeezed out year after year because you don't pay service providers. So you're putting service providers in the province out of work because you don't pay them. You only pay them in the next financial year. And after you've paid them, there's very little money left for the service delivery that you have put into your APP as for the following year. In terms of your supply chain management, when you look at what this department is doing, you know the government led by the ANC is very clear about economic empowerment. But your department doesn't comply. If you look at page 121 of the AG's report, right, this department doesn't comply. You don't deal with local production and content requirements, which are there to empower small businesses. You don't deal with it. You actually contravene it. You award contracts to contractors who are not registered with the CIDB and who don't qualify for these contracts. You have procured IT-related goods and services, and yet you've not used CETA. These are just some of the examples. You've also not been able to provide evidence that employees of your department, right, are not in conflict with supply chain management, are not in conflict with contracts because they have an interest. You're unable to provide that evidence to the AG. So I'm giving you some of the examples. So whilst you come here and you say that you don't have enough money, the money that you do have, you're not using correctly. So you must understand, HUD, why we are frustrated as COPA.
Honourable Chair, I'm going to come back to respond to those issues, and for now we would request your indulgence in allowing Ms. Hadebe to deal with that issue of mobiles. Then I'll come back to on these issues that the chair is raising.
That is fine.
Okay,
Ms.
thank you,
Hadebe?
Honourable Chairperson, and good morning again to the honourable members. The question raised by Honourable Cele on the mobile units that were not signed off. The reason the department did not sign off that because the mobile classrooms was that there were snags, there were items that were not according to the departmental specification, which we requested the service providers to attend to. And the report that we had indicates that only one, which is SIA consultant has finally attended to those items. And we've conducted several inspections for those service providers. Even today, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members, at 6 o'clock, we have a meeting with the team that is doing the verification, because our plan, since the similar issues that we have raised were raised by AG and they were also raised by Provincial Treasurer, our plan as a department is that once we are satisfied that they've completed or finalized the items that were outstanding, for example, items like your doors, which were not properly fitted, some windows that were not properly fitted as well. So our plan is that by the 20th, because they're indicating that by the 20th of October, they will finalize fixing all those things. Our plan is that we'll then have a joint inspection, which will then invite AG, invite Provincial Treasurer, so that we are all in the same page and agreeing that, yes, indeed, they've attended to those issues, so that this matter is closed and finalized. But the one that has indicated will then issue an invite to Provincial Treasury and to AG to inspect the one that were done by SIA, which has been verified by the department alone, but we still need an eye of the AG and the eye of Provincial Treasury, since this was a joint finding. So that is where we are. That is why we did not sign off, because we're not satisfied with some of the items like your doors, your steps, and your windows. Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable members.
Chair, I think we can move on to Dr. Chetty's issues, so that we are done with them, and then I come back.
Dr. Chetty?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the issue raised by Honourable Cele referred to Program 2 and Program 5 targets were not reached, yet the budgets have been spent. Chair, the targets for these programs only form part of the mandates. Now, within the program, there are several other mandates. So what happens is a lot of the funding goes towards these other mandates for public ordinary schools, for example. It's not just your LTSM and learner transport and so on. So what really happens, while we try our best, while program managers try their best to reach those targets, funding does become a problem. All the funding is not directed towards the indicator itself. And perhaps DDGs will concur that the SOIs we have plus minus for the entire program, we have for the department, we have about 46 standardized output indicators. And yet, when one looks at the operational plan, there are over 4,000 indicators, which are province-specific and program-specific indicators. So, Chair, I hope that answer suffices, but I can assure the honourable members, we as a department, we do try to get to reach the targets or to get towards closest towards the standardized output indicator targets. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Chetty. Let me just say this, right?
Chair.
Honourable Taylor?
Thank you for offering me the opportunity just to respond to what Dr. Chetty is saying about the indicators and them not reaching the targets. If those targets are not reached, it's yourselves that actually put up those targets. And when it comes to the Auditor General, they see that non-reaching, you spending the money and not reaching the targets, it means that the service delivery is not done with those within those targets that you put up for yourselves. So as much as I hear what you're saying in your response, it's still not good enough for us as members, because when it goes out there with the Auditor General, there's a statement that says that as much the governing party and the government itself does not do much when it comes to service deliveries because of these 25% that we see from different types of programs from your departments. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Taylor. Well, this is the thing. That is what I was going to say. And I think I'm beginning to run a bit on rooms now. You see, the targets are not set by the Portfolio Committee. The Portfolio Committee on Education doesn't set targets. The legislature doesn't set targets. The department does. And it does it in terms of its mandate. You are correct, right? So if your targets are failing, it's because you have set incorrect targets. Now, I understand the issues of cash flow problems, etc. I don't understand that, but I know that there are cash flow problems. You meet your Portfolio Committee regularly. Do you report this and say, we are in danger of not meeting this target, we want to adjust? Because you do have provision. That's why we have adjusted estimates. There is provision for you to adjust and say, this is not doable. Why do you continue then with the same targets, not saying that there's a problem? But I want to just go back to what I said. You see, your budget, 83% of your budget goes on compensation of employees. Of that 83%, a chunk of it gets eaten up because you pay people who are not even in your employ and you don't get the money back. So there's 83% gone. You've got 17% effectively left for service delivery. A large chunk of that gets eaten by accruals. So what is going on in this department? And it's not news. It hasn't happened now. This has been happening for the past few years. Not for the past few. For quite a period, you have been warned repeatedly. Accruals are going to get you to the point where you're not going to have any money because you've got to pay those service providers. They have people and mouths to feed, and you carry that through. So this is the problem that you have, and this is why we want to hear your plan. And honestly, members, I think I need some guidance here. I'm not sure whether we are going to get the responses we require or whether the responses have been prepared with the seriousness that they deserve. I want to get guidance from you about whether we release this department and call them back, and this time to give us proper responses. I can see several hands up. Honourable Rogers, Honourable Mchali, Honourable Taylor. And Honourable, okay, sorry, my mistake. There's Honourable de Klerk who had his hand up, Honourable Rogers, Honourable Mchali, Honourable Taylor. Let's take you in that order.
Thanks, Chairperson. I don't think we're getting anywhere. I've got more questions than answers now, and we could probably spend the rest of the day. I was going to suggest exactly the same, that we set aside a day. I don't, you know my opinion, I don't like these virtual meetings. I like to see somebody sitting across me. I like to read their body language, and I like to put my questions to them. I would urge you, Chair, that we reconvene, we set an entire day aside, and we then hammer this situation out and come up with a solution. Because as I said, this department has every possibility of impacting negatively on the entire province. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Rogers. Honourable de Klerk.
Chair, I can only support what was said. It's not doom and gloom, it's a reality. We have to deal with it. So I say exactly what Honourable Rogers has said. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Mchali.
Yes, Chair. I'm on the same view, Chair, but mine will even go further. I want to see these people, Chair. Can it please be physical? I want to interact them directly because really this is very disappointing. And I hope that they will take this matter of us reconvening them as an indication that we are worried about the department. Not only are we worried, but we're disappointed in them as far as the responses that we're getting. So I'm fully in agreement with your proposal, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Mchali. Honourable Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. Mine, Chair, is that there are responses that were given by different line managers. I think the wheels only started getting off when the CFO was speaking. What the MEC has said for me gives me comfort, and the rest of the responses to the HOD, I think it's quite sad, Chair, that this department has not had a CFO for quite some time. And then when we get a CFO, perhaps he's overwhelmed, or I'm not sure. But if we do reconvene, I do hope. I don't think it's the first time, Chair, where I've found the way that the CFO of this department addresses us. I don't know, maybe he's too educated. Maybe we are not really that educated for him. Because for a CFO to come to the portfolio committee and say, and say the question is to why? Who is he posing the question to? When he's here to respond on issues that they themselves are supposed to be responding to when it comes to members. He comes to us, the very same people who give them the budget, who give them the money, and he addresses us as if he's talking to ordinary people who are outside there. I think that's where the biggest problem, that's the biggest challenge that we are faced with now. It's the way that we are spoken to. Maybe it's not really some of the way the answers per se even, because even the answers that it's giving us, they just are not up to the standard that we're expecting from a CFO of such a big department, as you have said. I really hope that when we meet again and we see each other, we will be taken to this very, very seriously, as the MEC has taken us seriously and as the way the HOD was trying to respond. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Taylor. I can see a range of hands here. Colleagues, those which are legacy hands, please just let's clear them so I'm not accused of leaving anybody out. Thank you. Okay, so Honourable Rogers, let me go to you.
Thank you, Chair. I must be honest, I didn't take offence at what the CFO said, but everybody is entitled to their own opinion. What the CFO did say that we must never miss sight of, and I made a note of it, is that there's absolutely no internal controls or internal audit unit in the department. And we must not miss that. That is critical information as to why this department is failing. So I just want to do, that's something we must never lose sight of. One person dealing with irregular expenditure. These are the issues we need to be grappling with. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Rogers. Mr. Zulu from Audit and Risk.
Thanks, Chair. With regards to the issues that are being discussed, as Audit and Risk Committee, we requested that the departments must develop an action plan, because it's all coming from the action plan, AG action plan. We requested them to submit their action plan by end of August. In fact, the initial suggestion, which we like to stick to, is that each time the AG is raising issues, there's clarity in terms of what are they findings, what are the root causes, and they agree with AG, and they put it to the action plan for themselves. But after that, internal auditors, they look at it, as well as AG looks at those action plans, which addresses all the findings that have been there, which to me, when we come here to this meeting, they become an issue. So I would request that the department ensures that that is done and is done properly. And AG signs off and say, yes, the actions that we are going to take, they address the real issues on the ground. And so that before they come to the SCOPA and anyone else, they are saying, we have already agreed with AG that there's a proper action that should be taken. The issue of the signing of those mobile classroom should have been done in that way in particular, to say this is the action that we are going to take and agreed with AG at that particular point, so that whatever they do, they don't go back and forth, because also that itself is chowing the money that the department doesn't have if we are going to go back and forth with the AG in certain sites. And so I would request that the department itself must comply with the recommendations that have been made, so that we cut cost and also we address issues properly in having agreed with those who have raised findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zulu. I can see someone from the AG's office here. Madhavi, Bao.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members and colleagues. I'm actually from Provincial Treasury's Internal Audit Unit, not the Auditor General Chair, but I just wanted to indicate to the committee that Provincial Treasury does provide internal audit services for the Department of Education. So there is an internal audit unit housed at Provincial Treasury, and we do service Department of Education. I just wanted to provide that clarity. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Bao from Treasury. Okay, so colleagues, do we release the department and reconvene? I'm not sure whether we'll be able to have the physical meeting, Honorable Rogers. The reason that we are having these virtual meetings is that we are now, in this period of downscaling of activities, and members are all over the place. But we would look at that certainly. Do we release the department and allow them to go back and prepare, as has been suggested by Mr. Zulu, by ourselves, properly crafted responses that address the concerns we are raised? It will have to be quickly because there isn't much time. Honorable Rogers, I see you are supporting that. Can we go for that, members?
Yes, Honorable Chair, yes.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, fine. So, HOD, I know you had your hand up, but I think let's just do this. If you want have something to say, in addition to what has been said, we'll allow you to, and then we will release you. HOD?
No, thank you, Chair, Honorable Chair. I was raising my hand just to say that we will abide by the resolution of the committee, and to actually say that if in the next meeting, then whether live or virtual, we will actually come with written responses to the issues that were raised there by members, and depending on the time that would have be given, we will actually even be able to submit those written responses to the questions, which we have noted all of them, and provide responses before the date of the meeting. That's the commitment I just wanted to make, and also to apologize once more for the responses that were deemed inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD. Okay, colleagues, then let's do it like this. We'll reschedule this one. We'll ask for the written responses from the department. Today is Tuesday. Within the week, if we can get those written responses, and we will schedule a meeting for next week. We still have SCOPA hearings next week, and we'll juggle around and ensure that we slot in this department. Okay, is that okay, colleagues? Because I'm now going to close.
No, that's fine, Chair.
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will now close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Salushinga. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you and goodbye.
Yes, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.